Anybody watching the year?
She did pretty good. She did pretty good.
Never hurt.
Good.
Never hurt. Yeah, thank you. Well, listen, you even have this thing. I'm going to the phone, make it a good house, and- I don't know. Cash giveaway. That's true. We heard all that, that's good. I'm not gonna. Only have one thing. I mean, it's here, Christy. Yeah, I think it's right there.
And then
All I like is ball. You know, I always had a.
And you're like, get out of here. Get out of here. I couldn't figure it out.
I scanned your drink.
Oh.
You probably already did that. It's good.
I was like,
Why you get it?
that's.
That's the highest drink like that. We're
Right.
high five. People want hours.
We all want to be around money. I'm here for it,
We're so bad, right?
right? Like, what is it? Don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
Good one.
Yep.
In city, how much are sales? So.
I.
Me either. Just, maybe it's so.
Where are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah. Everybody's saying they're.
Well, we should be getting the farm update report. Updated. If it's not already, I usually wait until. Like that. Yeah.
The spar.
Report, they come out with monthly reports. And it's going to be late. I think for me, we can account.
Let's see the number.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. So.
And I
I'll get. Talk about politics.
Hey, y'all, welcome. Happy Tuesday. This is your team meeting. We are grateful to have some incredible food today. Thank you to our friends at that great fun title, correct? Kayla's right back there, right, Kayla? We are grateful today. We have a busy meeting. This is our first meeting without Emmy, so a little sad about it. Yeah, you know, Emmy, here you go. No, I'm grateful that everybody's here. So let's jump into our giveaway as we get some people that are walking in. Welcome. Stella. What about Stella? Here. Yeah. All right, guys, so, beautiful tomorrow, everybody loves this, little thing, when the lights warm up. Who's showing? Who's got showing? We got showing here. Showing. Anybody got a showing? Right, right something today?
We got. Over the weekend.
That's a good weekend, right? Well, you know, a lot of times that it's not always that way. And I see a real estate agent on Facebook yesterday talking about how the lender shouldn't call them because he doesn't want to call. You know, when you think about him, he doesn't, yeah, he's a big agent. He's like, if your loan officer calls me, then don't. I thought it was really ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. And then he took the heat from it. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, you know, you couldn't do the job and take a call, God forbid, from a loan officer. So it wasn't going to. Be kind, be nice. And yeah, he's taking the heat today. So.
He's saying like he didn't want to talk to them when they're like, make an offer.
Yeah. Yeah. So he obviously is feeling a little. Are you looking for the something? Thank you. So yeah, well, moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful for those songs that you hear that transport you back to a time that just fills you with emotion. I had a song come up, Tasha Banfield, These Words Are My Own. There's a chorus in there where she says, I love you, I love you, I love you. And my boys and I, when they were 4, 6, and 8, when that song would come on, when it first came out on the radio, not streaming. This is what you do with the radio. Singers. This is a phone call. Anyway, and we would turn it up as loud as we could and just scream the words as loud as we could. It's a beautiful time and just fills my heart.
Appreciate that. I thought we were gonna go with like Onyx and Family. You were like,
That's a different song. A different audience.
I remember not.
Never.
No, I appreciate that. Hold on. I'm in with 5 wheels and cycle again, so it feels kind of nice.
I was gonna say everything, and I don't mean that as like the typical thing of like, yeah, things are going well, but like, I've been really pushing the state of abundance and just trying to see something from every little bit of everything that's slowly trickling in, and sometimes very quickly flooding in as in the last 2.5 days, I have 5 riders.
Yeah.
And and it just, and a plethora of other things happening in life also with setbacks, like shoulder surgery and stuff like that are happening also, but just rolling with it. And
Yeah.
letting other things happen for a time in my life, of like allowing others to actually help me and give a little bit. And
I love that, man. Kind of nice when you kind of feel like things are coming together, right? For a long time, he didn't feel that way. And for some of you, you might be feeling that way today, right? Like it's not coming together. One of my conversations this morning was kind of on that same line, right? Which is sometimes it doesn't feel right, right? It doesn't feel like you want it to feel. The point is Grant, how long did it take you to get to that place?
well, it depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
And I've been in that place, like I told people, my first year was my entire spirit coming together, and
Yeah.
it seemed amazing. You might look at skyrocket. It was really terrible. Well, there were ups and downs.
Yeah.
And one more than that. In the downsides.
Yeah.
And so well, it's like it took me this long to get there, because it's not so that I can go down either, but just finding.
Yeah.
And looking for it.
And knowing that it's not always gonna be like, right? There are gonna be days again in the future where you come into my office and say, I don't think I want to do.
Yeah.
Right? But there are the moments too that can feel elated, like, okay, wait, this actually does make sense. And I'm actually enjoying where I'm at. The feeling I can get to eat every day, because sometimes it feels like that.
Knowing that.
Yeah.
Make the lowest economic. And because I just keep running.
Yeah.
And also.
You're still on the outside, right? I mean, that's the thing that we think of is, if you imagine this, I mean, that's not to say there's not gonna be hard days and that transaction wise, there's not gonna be good things that are happening, right? But the reality is that there are gonna be good and bad days. The consistency that you kept with though is making it so that this opportunity is now presenting itself, right? A lot of the people that come in were in the same position that Grant was. Sorry, I just wasn't gonna make this a Grant day, but here we are. Where you go is with the frustration, what was happening, you could have easily quit. You were in the moment of going, is this really worth it? And you didn't quit, right? And so now you're seeing that, okay, not only did I not quit, but I stayed consistent with the activities that I was doing. Whatever it was that you were doing that was working for you, it's now presented, right? It's now showing up, it's now bearing fruit. And so for those of you that think some days this just isn't working, I don't know if I can do this. Just think WWG, what was Grant do, right? Nobody. What was So I'm gonna get some bracelets made up for you, brother, and then we're gonna go. I mean, sounds great. But I appreciate that. Anybody else? Gratitude. Feeling great.
I came in today and I got a thank you card on my desk. I'm like, who is this? And this is somebody I helped buy a house about probably 6 months ago. And I've worked with them on and off over the years, and I consulted on their house, market analysis. Some of them they sold. After that, they sold on their own and stuff like that. They sent me this thank you card, annual check. Just blue. Thank you for everything you've ever done for us, from the people you've introduced us to the council you've given us. So I mean, we just, and
Yeah, this is your moment.
yeah,
Wow.
totally blown away.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Oh, you too, hopefully you can work long enough in our business where people will send you mailbox money simply because you are good to them. I mean, that's something awesome. Never happened. So there's a goal, you guys. Keep here long enough. Just for being a resource and doing what you do well anyway, so that's. I'll share one with you guys, and I'm grateful for an opportunity. You know, we've had a lot of movements in the last. Well, I'll just acknowledge it, right? We had one of our biggest teams leave our relationship, leave our organization. That's tough, and it's tough because it takes the wind out of our sails. It takes the wind out of. There's a lot of things that. But I wanted to make this clear is. If you could ever get into a situation where somebody is offering you money to get into their blue van, I'm sorry, it's a blue van. See me personally, have a conversation, okay? I promise you I'm easy to talk to, but if they're offering you candy to get into that blue van, don't do it. Don't talk to them, okay? Just try that.
You actually wanna say come to daddy, right?
They may say, we're gonna have a conversation about that. No, we didn't record it. Yeah. But, you know, here's the other thing, guys, is I can't tell you what to do or how to do it, but I can tell you where you're gonna waste time and money. And so I know some of you are meeting with different people at different times, but I ask you this. I had a loan officer reach out to me. I told Raina about this. He's a nice person, I'm sure. Do I have a need to meet with another loan officer personally? Do you think I do? The answer is no, right? Why do I not need to serve them?
Michael?
Because I have to. Now, I'm not saying that my people have to be your people, but I'm saying if you have people and you're meeting with a different loan officer all the time, it's a waste of your time. Even if they promise you you're gonna get a deal from them, don't do that. That's just not I see people that come into my office and they give me their calendar and I go, you met with 3 different affiliates last week. You don't even have a deal in the pipeline. Go put a deal in your pipeline and then start working with the company that you want to find, that you find value in, that's going to help you actually achieve the outcome, right? So I'm not telling you I'm not telling you exactly what to do, but don't take meetings that don't get you closer to your goal, right?
Yeah. Just to add to that, being on leadership, we're here to help bring you clarity. We're here to help you make the best decision for you, right? And that's our ultimate goal with all of that. So just know that you can have an open and honest conversation with any of us, and we're going to help bring you that clarity. And then after that, you do what's best for you, right? But yeah, at least we're able to help with that process.
I'll give you an example. Out of everybody that has left, and right, 3 are doing better since they left. That's 3 people, and they, out of all that have left. So my point is before you go to make a change in your life, determine if it's a life choice or if it's an activity choice. And let me tell you guys it's an activity choice, right? All right, let's get to the next one. Thank you, brother. All right, today's sponsor is our friends at Great North Title. Who wants to come on? How are you? How are you?
Very huggy today. Hi guys, good afternoon. Anyone wants my address for mailbox money that they So kind of on brand today for this week for Red Day, giving back and all the things. So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. So we believe that home is more than a place, it's a foundation for families. So let's talk about a little bit how Great North Title does kind of puts into that, pours into that. We are a part of Homes for Heroes. So Homes for Heroes helps first responders, police officers, teachers. There's a whole list. Have you guys heard of obviously Homes for Heroes before? You guys work with one of them. So that is something that we also believe in. We're also part of the American Warrior Project. And that helps with other types of loans for first responders and stuff like that. Sean, if you have to a little longer of the list. And so through this partnership, we contribute a portion of our fees to the Homes for Hero Foundation. And it provides significant savings to your guys' clients as well. So it's kind of a way that we continuously show up for you guys, and the same thing with the American Warrior Project. And if you guys know of any other kind of partnerships that you believe would be beneficial, we're always open to hear about them. So please let us know. We truly want to make a real impact. So every dollar saved, every donation goes towards building stronger communities, supporting those who protect and service daily. I've never things like firefighters and police officers, things like that. You look at them differently after you've needed them in a situation. And I'll share like a small story, but when my daughter was super little, she was 3 weeks old, we had to call 911. We didn't know she was choking. We didn't know if it was like a seizure or what it was. And all three showed up, firefighter, EMS, all of them, and the police officers. And they were like some of the kindest people that truly made an impact on my life. And then when I went to the American Warrior Project, and they were talking about service dogs and stuff like that, and what they do for veterans and things, and then I actually ran into somebody who I had just a really long conversation with, that was supposed to be about 20 minutes, and they had a service dog, and just the impact that these first responders and veterans can really have on our lives, and how easily we can overlook that. So just taking the day or the week, just kind of pour gratitude into that and remember. You can skip a couple. I think if you can help, if you know someone, connect them with us. We also partner with a lot of top talent around the area too. So if you want to skip to towards the end, maybe that's the last one I put on there. We are participating in Red Day, so we'll be here too, but the last one. So talking about top talent. If you guys need anybody in the real estate sphere, we obviously, as a title company, we work with all of you. We work with loan officers, inspections. We are kind of the middle part of the whole entire sphere of the big picture. So if you guys need somebody or a connection in this sphere, please let me know and happy to put that out. And today afterwards, if you want to go one more, we are having Brian Stevens come here. So he is a real estate attorney and he's here for all of your questions. He's going to put on a small presentation, but mostly I'm hoping that it can kind of be interactive for you guys. So please join us after this for our little get together with Brian Stevens.
All right, you guys, we have a special guest today, and I wanted to introduce our special guest. Is Ward 2 Council President Rebecca Noacker, first woman elected to represent Ward 2 in the St. Paul City Council. That's right. Well, come on down. We appreciate being here.
Everyone, thank you so much for having me. I really, I appreciate being part of your moment of gratitude, and Grant, I'm gonna get the WWGD. Great way to start a meeting, and make me feel really optimistic and hopeful and think about the things that I'm grateful for as well. I'm not sure if I've ever gotten to take money in it, although that was probably. But no, it's really a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Rebecca Baker. I represent Ward 2 on the St. Paul City Council, and I'm serving right now as the City Council President. And I thought I would just come, I was invited to give you a little bit of the policy landscape of St. Paul, because it sounds like sometimes when you're making sales or having conversations with prospective buyers or sellers, some of the conversation isn't just about interest rates and the market, but it's also about the broader economic, socioeconomic factors surrounding the home and the neighborhood. And it's in my interest to help you help sell St. Paul and get more people living here. So not here would also be great, but you know, so I want to speak just very briefly about some of the council's policy priorities and then really open it up to your questions, because I don't know about you, but I don't like when elected officials talk at me for very long. Let me keep that brief. This is a bit of context. In St. Paul, we have a mayor and city council. Very much like in Washington, D.C., old civic lesson, the mayor is like the president and the city council is like Congress. So the mayor is in charge of running the city, appointing all the department directors, the heads of public works and planning and police and fire and water. And then the council is responsible for passing the budget. That's our biggest responsibility. And then passing any laws. And the mayor can veto those laws and override, very much just like at the federal level. There's 7 city council members. We each represent one ward in the city, so we don't have any at-large council members. Each of us is one ward, and the mayor is completely separate. I know some smaller cities, the mayor might be part of the council. That's not the case in St. Paul. Each of us represents about 45,000 people. So that's more than the mayors of all the other cities in Ramsey County, the way I think about it. And there's technically a partisan council, which basically just means that 20 years ago, in order to cut the budget, they decided to call us part-time. have our salaries is the same amount of work. Overtime. Some of us in the job full time, so I am one of those people just because I love it, and I would never want to do anything else that would sort of make me feel like I was half timing my opportunity to be on the council, because I do believe it's an incredible honor and opportunity. But some of my colleagues do have other jobs and have to balance this work with that. So that's hopefully a little bit of context as to what the city council is, and we are year round. Legislature, the state legislature has a session, and it's really busy right now as we get to the end of session, right? We have sessions throughout the year. Our council meetings are every Wednesday at 3:30. You're always welcome to come join us in the beautiful Ramsey County City Hall Courthouse. And there's really never a break in the activity. There's always something going on for us. We don't have one particular session that is crazy. Although the end of year tends to be busy because that's when the mayor proposes his budget in August, and then when we adopt it by December. So we're coming up on a bit of a busier time. So the city council identified 5 priorities at a recent retreat that we had. We get together at the beginning of the year. We talk about all the opportunities in the city, all the threats facing our city. As you can imagine, right now there are a lot of threats facing cities. There is a threat of decreased federal funding for some cities. There's a lot of uncertainty about the economy. So all of that we kind of take into account and figure out what our policy goals are going to be. And this year we identified 5 in no particular except alphabetic order. They are climate, economic development, fiscal resiliency, housing, and public safety. So those were the 5 big buckets that we said these are what we really want to focus on. Just a little bit about what's kind of in each of those. For climate, we get to a number of initiatives at the city level that help our residents prepare to mitigate the effects of climate change or hopefully to forestall them. And one example that might be important to you is our Power of Home and Healthy Homes program. So this is a free weatherization, and electrification program that the city is rolling out to help low-income homeowners work that's necessary to weatherize their homes, pay for the weatherization, and then even the electrification, things like heat pumps, electric stoves, things like that. So that's rolling out as one of our climate initiatives here. We also have a really extensive EV car sharing network with electric vehicles that are a partnership with PowerCar. And those are throughout neighborhoods in St. Paul with discounts for low-income residents. So another sort of benefit to just know about and economic development is the other big policy priority, and this is huge for us. We know that we have to grow, we have to attract more people, more residents if we want to continue to provide good services, because things cost more every year, as you know, and interest rates and inflation is not a joke. So if we want to be able to continue to provide good services without continually raising taxes, huge burden on our residents, then we want to expand our tax base. That's the way to do it. So we are doing our first ever economic development strategy for the city as a whole. We've done this before. I think that since 1849, we would have done that before. So we are evaluating what are the industries we should be attracting to St. Paul, what are the types of businesses, small local retail businesses that we're currently using to urban neighbors. We're going to be doing that this year, and we'll have findings from that. We also are really big on supporting small businesses. We have main streets throughout the city of St. Paul. Grand Avenue, Wabasha on Robert Street in downtown. If you think about Cesar Chavez, where I live on the west side, Boca Chica, for example, right along that street. Think about Snelling, different streets that are main streets in their communities and that are just chock full of local businesses. Those businesses need support. And since COVID, we've seen that even more so. And that affects the quality of neighborhoods. You can't walk down the street to get your dry cleaning done, walk down the street to your car. So we just launched a $1.4 million commercial corridors fund that's going to support all 17 commercial corridors in the city, not through a competitive grant, but really through an allocation that just goes to, say, a Grand Avenue Business Association, help them market the corridor, help them have events that promote the corridor, help with grant donation, help them with awnings, flower planting. So that's just another example of economic development. And then the third example, and this is the big one, downtown St. Paul is going through a moment, as our downtowns all across the state, and downtown revitalization is a top and for me, for our entire council, and for the mayor, and his administration. My ward is downtown St. Paul. I'm the only council member who represents downtown St. Paul. But I am very grateful that my 6 colleagues do not consider this to be just my issue. It takes all of us and everyone who's equally invested in the success of downtown. One of the things that we our overarching strategy for downtown is to bring people back. Converting our vacant commercial office buildings to residential buildings by revitalizing some of our streetscapes to make it more attractive. If you've ever been to downtown St. Paul, you know that there's Rice Park, and there's Chicken Park. Well, we really don't want to walk in the sea. It doesn't feel like anything's going on. It's not like safe. It's not necessarily unsafe. Actually, downtown St. Paul is very safe. Downtown St. Paul is very safe. Not very pleasant, right? And sometimes when people feel like things aren't, they also feel unsafe. It's important to know that crime is down citywide and especially down in town, but that doesn't reassure people if they don't. It's pleasant, right? So we're working to make the streetscapes much more pleasant, much more inviting. We have a downtown improvement district that has just expanded to cover all of downtown. So now if you're ever downtown, you see people in these bright colored vests, much like they have in Minneapolis, sweeping up, giving you directions to go, providing a safety escort if you need one. And those have had a huge impact on decreasing quality of life concerns, making people feel more welcome downtown. And then the last part of our downtown strategy is to redevelop some key sites. We've had some sites in downtown that have just been sitting undeveloped for a long time. One of those is at Central Station. If you've ever gotten off the Green Line at Central Station in downtown St. Paul, St. Paul Athletic Club, and then there's a big triangular lawn. You might say to yourself, why is there a lawn in the middle of downtown St. Paul in a central business? It's not a park, a lawn. That is an area that needs to be developed. That should be a tower rather than a grassy triangular. And luckily, we now have, after 8 years of work, and I'm talking about like being on the phone every other week with all the parties that needed to have to bring it together. We have a developer. It's a developer that's really reputable, Flaherty and Collins out of Indianapolis. They proposed a 20-story residential tower on that lot, and we are in negotiations with them as we speak. That will completely revolutionize the way Central Business District in St. Paul feels. If you have a residential tower surrounded by street level retail there, right smack dab between Rice and Mears Park. So suddenly you can look down the street, down Fifth, and see something that you want to walk to, and then from there you can see your way to Mears Park. Yeah.
I don't like the idea. I worked in St. Paul. I like the lawn. Although it just is business. Like just another big high rise, and it's gonna just visual. I don't like the idea. That's my thing.
Well, I want to acknowledge, I started to scream. And you know what might make you feel a little bit better is that we are investing fully in other green space in downtown. And one example of that is Cooper Park, which you've ever been to Keys Cafe on Robert Street, and you walked across the street, and there's, I don't know how familiar with something, but there's been this like, they call it urban flower field, basically gravel. There were some flowers, there were some plastic Adirondack chairs. It's supposed to be a real park for decades, and we are finding there's $8 million in this summer. It will open up as the newest, best park, I think, right? But certainly a great addition. So in addition to Rice and Mears, we're now going to have a real Pedro Park. That's going to be right across from the camp, right across from a new pizza place going in where Black Creek was. And news travels fast. Off the pizza place. We're getting a new pizza place, right? So things, I will be getting to a great place downtown, not there yet. But a lot of time and attention to downtown revitalization. So that's economic development. Housing is our fourth priority, and housing is key. Sorry, I skipped fiscal resilience. I'll come back to it because I think you care more about housing. So we know we need more housing. We know we need it affordable at all income levels. We put millions of dollars into affordable housing every year. We're going to continue to do that. We also know in St. Paul we have some barriers to creating housing. One of those is our rent stabilization ordinance. That has been on the books since 2023 when it was approved by voters. We are working right now to change that ordinance. So on our agenda tomorrow, breaking news, we will be considering an amendment that would cap rent stabilization at anything built before 2004. So anything built after 2004 or that received its certificate of occupancy after 2004, so it was built as residential or as commercial, but then becomes residential in since 2004, would no longer be subject to any rent stabilization. This brings our policy more in line with other successful rent control policies like in New York or San Francisco, where there's a certain time before which buildings built before then are rent stabilized, but not after. So the goal is to protect tenants. 94% of our tenants would still be in rent stabilized buildings, not prevent new, because what happens, the market has looked at St. Paul as not a safe place to build because you're not sure of your investment. But if we basically say rent stabilization doesn't apply from going forward, that really removes that barrier to construction.
Wait, did you say ever?
Ever, right? So so if you build after 2004, you are not subject to rent stabilization. Right now, we have a 20-year new construction exemption, which basically meant that after 20 years, you would become subject. This would change that and say just anything built before 2004 is rent stabilized, anything built after is not. And the goal there is, again, to protect a lot of tenants, but free up new construction in the city. We've heard from a lot of developers, small and large, by the way, people who are building duplexes and triplexes, saying we can't get investors to invest in us because there's sort of a black line around St. Paul right now due to this policy. We're trying to improve that. And then the other policy that we're taking on is a tenant protection policy, which we had back in 2021. It was challenging, we withdrew it. We're trying to bring that back so that tenants are able to have stable housing and more easily access. Those are both on our agenda tomorrow. Today, if you're interested, again, I encourage you to come out, tune in. You can see all of our meetings live as well. Fiscal resiliency is basically about getting our budget under control and keeping taxes down. And we are looking for every which way that we can possibly do that. Last year, I was proud that we actually passed, the mayor proposed a 7.9% levy increase. The council brought it down to 5.9%, which is still an increase, but it's the biggest decrease in what the mayor has proposed that we've ever done. And that was because we are hearing so much from constituents that taxes are too high. And again, costs go up every year, and just maintaining the same level of service gets more expensive every year. But we know that it's a burden, and we want to do it. And then public safety. Public safety is sort of the foundation of roots, right? If we don't have that, then nothing else matters. So in addition to continuing to expand police department, adding new firefighters and fire stations in the city, I couldn't agree more. You don't know you need them until you need them. I've had a similar experience with firefighters in my house, and it is really and so we've continued to invest in those departments. But we also have a whole office of neighborhood safety that focuses on things like fentanyl response to opioid addiction, making sure that we have people who are crisis intervention trained who are going to the call, so that we don't always necessarily send the right response to the right call. And then finally, specifically a focus on non-fatal gunshot. We have had another thing I don't think people know about St. Paul is we have amazing homicide clearance rate. So if someone gets shot in the city of St. Paul, we are finding that person and we are holding them accountable 80–85% of the time. Most of the country, that's about 20 to 30% of the time that they find the person responsible for the crime. Obviously, we want to stop. We don't consider it a win to have someone be killed and then find the perpetrator. But I think it's important for the public to know that we have this incredibly high success rate in the city of St. Paul of finding the perpetrator when that happens. But we weren't doing that for non-fatal gunshots, which is still pulling a trigger, firing a gun. And the only difference sometimes between a non-fatal gunshot wound and a homicide is how well Regis Hospital was able to treat, right? And so there's no, in our mind, distinction in how well we were solving those cases. And so we've recently invested in a special unit just for non-fatal gunshot wound cases. And we have now seen a significant drop in those cases, as well as an increase in the number that are being, where the perpetrators being held accountable. So I'm really proud of the work we're doing on public safety. Back to what I said earlier, it doesn't matter at all when people don't feel safe. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure I came and talk to you, because if you're hearing things from the folks that you're talking to about neighborhoods, especially when it comes to safety, when it comes to cleanliness, with anything, I would love to know about that, because I would love to partner with you. I would love to problem solve with you. Sometimes it's helpful to know when somebody heard something. Like, for example, sometimes people will say, you know, I had this really, really bad experience downtown. And I'll say, oh, when did that happen? They'll say a year and a half ago. It was just awful. And I'll say, oh, well, it's good to know that because obviously you haven't come back in a year and a half because of that experience, but since a year and a half ago, this is all the things that you should know about, rather than thinking, oh, this was yesterday, you know, nothing we've done made this. So having those relationships with you and being able to have conversations with you really helps, hopefully helps you and certainly helps me to know what you're hearing as well. So with that, I just wanted to, your question.
Do you guys have some questions?
As the city council president, and I'm gonna preface it with this disclosure.
Yeah.
Born and raised outside of St. Paul. Had been on Wesco Capital Improvement Budget Committee when I was, Mayor Norman appointed me. Was on the board when neighborhood house funding was getting through.
Yep.
The West Side Booster, born and raised. President of West Side Booster, past president.
Thank you
things
for
like
your-
that. Okay, so I'm prefacing all that because Ward 2 is where I grew up. I don't live there anymore. I moved out a couple of years ago. Right, like, there's a reason why I say, okay. But my question to you is as the city council president, how much influence do you have on the courts? You mentioned expanding the PD, which is great because there's rampant drug use downtown, makes it unpleasant. You got people that are homeless in downtown, it makes it unpleasant. Things like that, the quality of life piece. But if we're not keeping folks in that have committed some of these major crimes, that quality of life. As an agent, I have clients who say, do not want to live in Minneapolis, and I do not want to live in St. Paul. But they'll go everywhere else, but those kinds of things, and that's that quality of life piece.
Yeah.
But if we're not, if we can add more money to PD, but if we're not keeping them in, what's the plan? What's the influence there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And if you haven't, I highly recommend having one of our judges come in and talk on our instances. I actually think it has really been informative for me. I have community conversations every month, different coffee shops around the board, and often we talk about things is, yeah, the police, we see them as arresting people, but then they're just back out. What about this? When we've had justices come in and talk, you know, they will say that if people are being brought to them and we have the evidence to support the charges, which we do because our books are good, they hold them accountable. But I think the disconnect is for a lot of the crimes that we're talking about, including drug dealing, including you know, a lot of the well, still drugs, but a lot of the sort of, you know, I saw someone dealing drugs with possessing drugs, things like that. You know, speeding, parking violations, those sorts of things. You don't go to jail. You know, you get arrested, you get charged, and then after you're let out, you're trial, because in our country you aren't held right without bail. It's really serious. And even once you're convicted, often the charge is fine, the charge is, you know, the penalty is not what people imagine, that they're going to be locked up for life. So I think there is a disconnect in what people expect to happen to someone who's say caught doing something illegal and what actually happens. And I think having the justices come talk to you about that would be helpful. Our influence is limited. I mean, our influence is basically, I have a relationship with, you know, Ramsey County Attorney John Choi. Talk to him a lot. We've had actually some really good conversations. For example, there was a time when I just said, John, like, we need to have everything that's brought to you from the area around Central Station from our officers for this period of time needs to bump ahead of the other things that are. Like, we are just in such a state downtown, we need to get extra attention, even though you have a backlog from COVID and break. And they have a similar effort, I think, going on right now on the transit. Things that are found on the train, you get a different level of attention from the court priority. So there's not no, but it's different.
It's capped at 3%. rents can go up only 3%. There doesn't seem to be a cap on property taxes. So what do you say to a landlord who, with property taxes went up 10%, they can't make that up, that difference up, they're expected to.
No, so it's really a great question, and because a lot of people are thinking about this. So, we have to guarantee landlords the right of return on investment. That is baked into the law. So we are not expecting landlords to suddenly turn into nonprofit, charitable, whatever. That's not what they're doing. They're to make money. So the 3% cap is complete. However, if any of your other expenses, including property tax, including inflation, including investments that you made in the product, right? Go above, then you can have an increase that is commensurate with that. So up to 80% can actually be applied for online, and it's kind of automatically approved on the level of deposit, and above that will come through as your cost. So we have dozens or hundreds, potentially a third, along with the myself, landlords who are getting that automatic consumption as a package because because we provide the product. So it's not really that you have to commit over 3% of all. Yeah. Great question. Yeah.
I just want to make a comment about rent control, and I'm sure you've heard this before in your conversation. I don't like my comment, but to me, it seems really unfair that if you build something 2004 later, you're not subject to rent control because the people that own the houses that are older are the mom and pop. So basically, big business gets away with being able to raise rent, and then small mom and pop doesn't. And I mean, I understand that this was voted in. Yes, it was voted in. It's a hindrance, but you already know that. So I just had to say it.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you did, and it's a controversial vote. I will not deny that at all. I also, this was voted in by the voters, and it's a really difficult situation to be put in as a policymaker when there's a policy by voters. I think it's different when, we're all used to school districts having referendum campaigns and, do you want to give more money or not, things like that, but having an entire law on the ballot that has a lot of details figured out, a lot of unintended consequences that you just can't communicate in a campaign, is really difficult. And then that law comes to us as a city council with a mandate, 53% of voters. Even changing it at all comes with this attack that, voters approve this, how dare you, et cetera, et cetera. So I am not dismissing your concerns one bit, and the whole thing has been brought up again.
So one of the struggles that we're facing, and I'm not sure that the city council can have an impact on this, but one of the things that we're facing is we talk about new buildings going up downtown, we talk about HOAs. My experience in some of the HOAs that are operating in downtown right now have prevented those buildings, those units from selling.
Yeah.
And driving down property values in those, they're rooting the investments that those homeowners made or investors. Have you guys had any conversation about that? Is there any support, or do we have to go to the legislature for that?
We have had a conversation about it, but so far only in the form of what you just said. So I do a non-frequent Zoom call. The article started a bunch of Zoom calls with their realtors, and by the way, always happy to come back to those, et cetera, to talk about downtown specifically. And what's coming up with the HOA fees that are exorbitant, and preventing, especially condos from selling and trading. So I don't know what the city's role might be, or what the legislature's role might be. We have very strong private property rights, as you know, and sometimes there are constitutional issues with legislating that. But I've been really interested in exploring it because it's come up over and over again. And every time I thought to myself, this seems like a private to private issue. I'm not sure where the public would have a role, but maybe we did. And I know SAR has brought it up. So yes, maybe this is something that would require a more sustained policy conversation, especially if it always helps us pass policy. It's been done elsewhere, right? So if there are models for other cities have taken action on this, and I would imagine we're not the only ones who are seeing this coming out of not just COVID, but I think these aging buildings, right? Where they're stocking up their fees for all the maintenance they have to do. I would be very open to that.
Any other questions, you guys?
Might be a little tough, so.
And that's what it's like, that's my pleasure. Everything you know about.
Let's make sense. Real simple, Marker Bruce there. Came back from the military, I hear more police sirens than I ever do in the military. So I know you guys are the crime control, but I guess it's my question. So there's a disconnect between what do you guys do when crimes are down, like what do you? That's what you like. Yeah, gunshots. Sure that people say, like, it's different days, these are the stats, but more experiences today, what, or, yes, we can.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So those particular questions is related to, you know, when you say crime is down, what I'm talking about, the fact there is still crime and people don't feel safe. What are we doing about that?
What crimes are being reported or not?
Whether it's being reported or not, right? So, one of the things I would say, so I would actually be happy to follow up to the spreadsheet, the crime report and the crime rate. I'm speaking specifically about violent crime. But certain times of the type of crime and they don't necessarily report about thing, and we don't know if credit card is reported. These are the areas of 911 calls, although they'll also include when the police themselves do proactive. So if I'm driving along with patrol and I do something that is counted as a call. So it's not just a report. But we do a lot of work educating people on it. I will say the number one thing that I'm telling people when they call today, I don't feel safe. This has happened, this has happened, this has happened, and I'm looking at the 911 call based property. Often this will come up with a home, right? Like my neighbor's home is a problem property. They always have this going on, that going on. And you look at the 911 call and there's no call. And when we ask people, they say, well, I just don't want to bother, the police with something. It's not a gunshot. I know, or it is a gunshot. It kind of has something else to attend to. No one got hurt. Right away, our police spend a lot of time saying, just call, because we will prioritize. We will triage. If you call 911 about some car burnt outside your neighbor's house for 5 days, we're not going to drop a homicide over to the car. We will do that in some time. Call us because that's how we build a record, and that's how we do get an more accurate what's going on with it. That's how we decide for the goal or deductive within because we don't need more officers in the area. So I do think that is very important, and that is ultimately is urging people that penalize people for excessive calling 911. We don't have excessive assumptions that we want people to call. And that's, by the way, I don't know if you're running into this, but kind of separation ordinances call, which means that our police officers are not federally not work for any. They do not work for any. They don't work for the IRS. They don't work for any federal agency because that would be the federal tax. So if you have homeowners or sellers, buyers who are concerned, right now we have another immigration status. That's why that's so important to us. Our police officers know that if people are worried that they'll become ICE agents, that they will not call them. And then our neighborhoods. So that's also somewhat reassuring to you and people that you work with, tell them that we do like that separation work. I'm getting to the full depth of it. I guess in terms of just in general, I just want to come back to they don't need much, and so that's why we're constantly investing in our police department. Budgets have gone up every year. There is a little bit of a fine line between seeing police officers all the time, also feel less safe or safe. Because then it feels like this is a problem area. So there's a bit of a balancing act, and that's why we also invest in we have grants, community groups, who do violence interruption. We have a lot of resources that are I'm happy to follow up with it. What?
Thank you. Hang out for a few minutes, and then hang out, we also move it back into the.
Thank you. I'll answer that. I will take my list card.
Please, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And, all right. Giveaway, goal. How many of you would like more people to hear you on that? How many of you would like more people to reach out to you and call you? Everybody raise your hand. There's not one hand. You raise your hand. Get it up. She got both of her hands there. All right. So here's the thing, you guys. This is the one way that you can get in front of your data. In fact, you know what? I'm not even good at talking about this. I want you to come up and help us all.
We changed it up a little bit because we wanted to make this as easy as humanly possible. So on the 29th, we have 2 options and 2 locations for you. From 3 to 5, we'll be here at Roseville, so you can sign up for that location and that time block. Or that is HCW, you can go there from 5 to 7. All of the money is going to be pooled together, and we are going to be doing a $500 giveaway for each location. So same event with more opportunities, but every single time we do this event, we get hundreds and hundreds of phone calls coming in. We get leads every single time. And it is a minimal dollar amount to be able to have a reason to have a real estate conversation with your database. And instead of increasing the dollar amount that we're going to be giving away, we've decided that the more people that sign up, the less expensive this event is going to be. So again, we get 20 people to sign up, it's going to be $50. And if we get more than that, it's going to come down. And these numbers here are included in their numbers at that expense. You're combining all of that into one giant event to make it easier and more accessible and cheaper for you to participate. So if you want some leads, if you want a reason to connect with your database, you got to sign up for this. It's going to be awesome. And I know Grant, you've gone to every single one of these, right?
Every single one, I've got closing clients. One. It's not put up some Facebook videos, really send an email with a video in it, database, people you've never talked to, I don't care.
Yeah.
Anybody who gets someone who calls in, wants to actually, every single time, take a little day off, have those conversations. And with that, this is the first one I can't get in because it's morning, but we have a shoulder surgery. So, all of the coaching clients, it'll be at random, but coaching clients, I'll pay for one of the coaching clients to sign up, and then someone else at random. 2 people, I'll pay for your, if anything, it's just, we get to reach out to everybody, and they're all going to call and have a conversation. Like, it's one of the simplest forms of conversation, listening back. That's what's phenomenal.
No, you are giving away. Yeah. Incredibly generous of Grant to do that. Number one. Number two, Jen, you had a winner, didn't you? Yeah. And the thing is, she gets to celebrate with her clients, but all of us are celebrating while that wheel is spinning, right? We're all claiming that victory. It becomes all of our events. And again, there's not a cheaper way to be able to get a lead from your database. That's awesome. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex?
Something to on that. This morning, I actually print out what I call in my database a tag. I gave the name 1000 giveaway cash from the former programs we used to do. So I have the one back in 2023, the one in 2024. I think we did just one of them.
Yep.
Not done that for a while. I think I would encourage everybody to register, because when I pulled that list up and I started lead generating, this morning I have 2 buyers that are now ready from that list. Yeah. So I really encourage every one of you to be part of this. This got me a lot of business. People were calling me from back home in Africa when I posted it.
I love that. I love all the feedback, and I appreciate all of you. We will feed you during this event as well. And so however we can make it more enjoyable, we're gonna do that, but I cannot tell you in this market, take every opportunity you can get to get clients, okay? Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now another thing. How many of you, can somebody tell me that has only been here within the last year? So if you've been here longer than a year, you can't raise your hand. If you've been here less than a year, can you tell me what Red Day is? Taylor? Taylor, sorry.
It's giving back to the community.
Yes. It's the intention of our day is to provide, we're the only company that does this at a brokerage level. You guys are all self-employed, correct? Right? And so what we do is gather on a day like this where we get together and we go out and serve our community. This particular year, you guys, we are focused on some very simple things. You can come in the morning and we're gonna make cards for kids and elderly people that are in the hospital. First of all, that's super fun, it's super easy, right? And I can actually do that because they only allow me to work with crayons. So we're gonna be really good at that. Right, then we're gonna have a barbecue. We have hot dogs. Sorry, that's wrong. We do not have hot dogs. There are no hot dogs, just in case. Apparently, we all died and we no longer allowed in hot dogs. So, you know, when you buy these, hold on. Brats, hamburgers. I'll be making sure we're cooked right. But brats and hamburgers, you guys. We have chips. Somebody's bringing beans. Check us out, scan the code, scan to show up. It's gonna be fun, and this is it. If you want to be a part of something that's gonna change your life, right? It's one day a year that we have set aside with the intention of helping out the community that hosts us, the community that supports us, and the community that gives us an opportunity to build in. So you guys, Red Day is, I believe it's one of the most important days of the year for us. Because it's what makes us different than our competition, is that we legitimately get together. Now, this morning, shut that door, lock it, there were 16, just bring it new. There were 16 signed up. So I'm not gonna call on anything, but here's my thing. If you aren't doing anything else on Thursday, and you wanna come, you wanna have a good time, and eat some fully cooked burgers and brats, this is your jam, okay? And come hang out with us. A couple of years ago, I think we had 30 or that. We all took pictures back. What time is it supposed to start? 12:30. All right, you come on in. All right, everybody. All right, you'll need to better my man will start here in a few minutes. And so you have 4 minutes to go get some food and get back in here. Easter, how are you? Good, thank you. It looks like